Hello friends, today we are going to study NCERT history class 6, and this class is not for the students of class 6 because we will be discussing something additional which are described in the chapter. So this class is for the people who are trying to compete in the competitive examinations. Some extra knowledge will also be imparted in this chapter. As we must be knowing, the name of the book is Our Pasts. The name of the book is Our Pasts. Generally, when we write this, then we write our past. We don't write the word past in plural form, but the name of the book is Our Past, and it is not by mistake, it is by full deliberation. The writers has written it not by mistake but by choice. What he wants to convey by giving the title of the book like Our Past, he wants to tell that history is not same for everybody, and history is not same at every stage of time and situation. It is different for the different people at different stages of time. So our past is quite colorful. It has some one color at one time for somebody, and it has some other color at a different stage of time for another one. Likewise, we can see that the life of a king is different from the life of his subjects or the common man. The past, as we remember our past, then past of a common man may be different from the past of a king or a queen or merchants or soldiers. That's why in this book the name is given as Our Past. We will be learning so many segments of the history in this book. Now we come to the chapter number 1. The name of this chapter number is also quite interesting. Generally the names of the chapters are not like that. The title or the name of the chapter is only for WH words. Like as we can see, the name of the book chapter is What, Where, How and When. So if something is abnormal or something is unique, then it has some hidden meaning inside it. It is not written randomly. Generally, when we study history, then what are the things we should be knowing? These are the things which are concentrated in this title. So before knowing about the book chapter, we should understand the meaning of these words. By what the writer wants to say, that what we want to know about our past, what the people in the past used to wear, what the people in the past used to eat, what the people used to manage for their survival, and what were the traditions, customs, challenges of those times. And then what comes where. Where means where they lived, where they started living. Whether they started living on at every place in this world, or whether there were some selected places where they started living, and when they started living at some selected and particular places, then why they started living at certain places and not other places. That is the question. That type of questions can be answered in why. But why is not given here. Why is there in every sentence in history or in any subject. So we can link from one fact to another fact with the help of the word why. It gives some impetus to the logic. Now the word comes how. How means how we know our past, how we know our history. There are so many sources with the help of we can know our history. So the word how here indicates about the sources of history. So there are so many sources. Nowadays we can see the films, storybooks and other things. Generally we find as a common man, they tell something about our history. Suppose you want to know about the World War II or World War I, although it has happened in recent past, but it is also our history. So we can know about them by reading some books or by seeing some movies. So there are other sources also which the historians use in order to know about our past. So that thing is indicated by the word how. And now comes the when. When means when is the word which indicates the time. Time means when the things happen, what was the time, and how the time is specified and how the time is measured. In this book we will be knowing how the time is measured in our history. mostly the 2-3 words generally we come across in history. They are, you must be familiar with these words also: BC and AD, and CE and BCE. BC means before Christ, AD means Anno Domini. BC means it refers to the time before the birth of the Jesus Christ. Anno Domini is a time which is indicating about the time after the birth of the Jesus Christ. And C is also common era. It is also the time which is after the birth of Jesus Christ, and BC is also a time which is before the birth of Jesus Christ. So these are the words generally specify the time. We measure the time like that. When the Jesus Christ got birth on this earth, that time is considered as 0, and before it BC or BCE, and after that AD or CE. So this is the thing which is associated with the word when. Now comes, as we are studying history, so there is a short definition of history also. It is the chronological study or chronological understanding of our past. Chronological matlab, it is in gradual form. First we learn something, then we learn the thing which happened after that, then we learn the facts or things which happened after that. It is the study of our past, but in a chronological manner, not in any random manner. Now as we can see, the names of the chapters in these books are written in such a way that they don't tell anything directly. If we deliberate on the names of the chapters, then only we can understand that what they actually wants to tell. In short or in nutshell, we can understand that this book of class 6 is basically about the ancient history. So there is a timeline of ancient history, although there is a timeline of medieval history and modern history also, but here we will be concentrating on ancient history only. There is a timeline of ancient history. So there is a origin of man. When the man started living or surviving on this earth, then what he did, he used to survive with the help of the stones. Most of the things he was doing with the help of the stones. Stones were used as a tool, and stones were also used as their place to live in, like caves. So that age is called a stone age. So I have written here, the first origin is stone age. Then came the Indus Valley civilization. Men started settling at some places which were suitable for their settlements. Then came little civilizations. One of them and most prominent of them is Indus Valley civilization. Then came the Vedic age. And there the society grew. They started learning some literature. They started writing. They wrote some Vedas, and that why this age is called as Vedic age. After that came the Mahajanpadas. Mahajanpadas means some cities started coming into existence. There were 16 Mahajanpadas, and one of the Janpadas which was most prominent and important and powerful was Magad Empire. And at that time only Buddhism and Jainism also took place. Then comes the Mauryan Empire. Mauryan Empire means there were some kings which were from the empire Maurya. Then after that, then came the post-Mauryan age. After the decline of the Mauryas, then the time which came was known as post-Mauryan age. After that, after the decline of the after the time which is post-Mauryan age, then came Gupta age. Gupta was another dynasty which came after the Mauryas. So this is the timeline of ancient history. We will be studying all these things in our book, which is from the class 6 gradually. So here first of all we will understand something about the Stone Age, that how men started living on this earth. So in this chapter there is 4 places or 5 places are given in this chapter in which people started living initially, and why they started living there. The reasons are also given, and what they used to do there, what were their achievements, what they used to do. Everything is given in this chapter. There are short informations about these 4 or 5 places which are given in the NCERT book. So there were some social changes also which took in chronological manner initially. If we will keep these things in our mind, then the picture of the ancient history will be clearer in our mind. Those social changes are at the initiation or at the start, the men were hunter. After that they become herder. They started domesticating animals and they started rearing them. Then they started agriculture and then they become agriculturer or farmer. Then some of them who were most ambitious, they started to achieve power in the society. Then they started fighting and they become the fighters. Then they become the rulers. When they own, they become the rulers, and when they did not own, then they went to the god. It means they were dead, they were killed. The fighting is like that only. If you win, you are the king. If you don't win, you are at the heaven, you will go to the heaven. Then in the societies which were also, there were some people which were also ambitious, but they were not ready to cost their life. They were not ready to put their life at their risk. As the warriors were ready, as the fighters were ready, as the armies were ready to put their life at their cost to fulfill their ambition or desire. But there were some other sections of the society who were also ambitious in this society, who were also trying to achieve something, power or prestige or comfort in their life, but they were not ready to put their life on the risk. Then what they did, they become the merchants of the society, and some of them become the scientists of the society, because they also wanted to have money, power, prestige, everything in the society, but not by the fighting, but by the trade and commerce or their intellectual property or their intellect. Some of them become scientists also. They were also enjoying most powerful position in the society. So this is how the social changes took place in a chronological manner. Now we will be concentrating on the 4 or 5 places which are given in our chapter, that why the people started living on those places and how. One of them is first I will name those places. One is Narmada Valley and Narmada and its tributaries. On the banks of this river people started living. Then one other is Suleiman and Kirthar Hills. Then Garo Hills and Vindhyas, Indus Valley and its tributaries, Ganga and its tributaries. These are the places where people started living in the settlements. So we will be knowing them about them one by one. So before knowing about the life of the people who started living or settled on the bank of the Narmada river, it is quite obvious and natural to know something about the Narmada river. It will make the picture clear in our mind that what we are going to study. Narmada is a river. We should know that Narmada is a river. In which state? It is in the Madhya Pradesh. It flows from Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, and it is known as the lifeline of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. And what is the another name of this river Narmada? The another name of this river Narmada is Rewa, and it is the 5th longest river in India. It is a long river. That's why its position is 5th. Ranking is 5th in India, and it flows from west to east. Generally, it flows from east to west. So you can say that this is the longest west flowing river in our India. There are 2 rivers in peninsular India which flow from east to west. One is Tapti river and another is Narmada river, and out of these 2 rivers Narmada is the longer. So most other rivers are generally flowing from west to east, but these 2 rivers flow from east to west. And its length is also quite interesting. Its length is 1312 kilometers. The digits are consecutive, 1312 kilometers. Now the question is from where it starts and from where it ends. You can say that it rises from the Amarkantak Plateau in MP, and district is Anuppur district, and then it drains to the Gulf of Khambat into the Arabian Sea, and which is 30 km west of the Bharuch district of Gujarat. It means it starts from the MP and it ends in the Gulf of Khambat into Arabian Sea, which is near the Gujarat. So This is also a sacred river in Hindu mythology. This river is also known as sacred river. In our Matsya Purana, it is also considered as it is stated that all the banks along the Narmada are sacred. Now we will know something about the people who were living on the banks of Narmada. They were skilled gatherers. Skilled gatherers matlab they used to gather the foods or fruits. They used to gather leaves, fruits, and eatables, and so they were skilled gatherers. They were knowing how to gather, how to preserve the foods. They were knowing where the fruits can be found and how to pluck them, how to store them, and how to preserve them. They were having the great knowledge of plants. There were so many types of plants in the forest. Nowadays also there are so many plants in the forest. All the plants are not edible. Some of them are poisonous also, and some of the plants are medicinal also. They cannot be consumed in a very large quantity. There is a limit to the quantity which can be consumed by a human body. So they were having this type of knowledge of the plants. They were very expert in the knowledge of the plants, and they were having the knowledge of the hunting, which animal to be hunted, how to be hunted, how to hunt, when to hunt, whether they will be easily available on the river side or in forest, and whether they will be dangerous for us or not. So they were having all type of knowledge of the hunting, how to hunt them, which weapons should be used for their hunting. So they were having the knowledge of the hunting, and which animals should be eaten, which animals should not be eaten. They were having this knowledge of hunting also. Now comes the Suleiman and Kirthar hills. About Suleiman and Kirthar hills, we should know that these hills are present in the northwest area, in the border area of Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it is written also that it is located in the northwest, and traces of crop growing found 8,000 years ago. In Narmada Valley, we have not found the traces of crop growing, but in the Suleiman and Kirthar hills, the traces of crop growing is found. 8,000 years ago means 6,000 BC. What were the crops which were grown in this area? The crops were wheat and barley. People who were living in these areas, they were knowing the domestication of animals also. They were knowing how to domesticate the animals also, as they were the tradition of crop growing also at that place. So it means that agriculture was already there, existing there. So whenever there is agriculture, then people need some support from the animals also in order to do some agricultures, like cattle. They used to support us in agricultural activities because they are more powerful than human beings. So they do some more tedious jobs in the field of agriculture. So for that, domestication of animals are also required. Which are the animals who were domesticated? Sheep, goat and cattle were domesticated. Sheep and goat must be fulfilling the purpose of food. They must be reared in order to get the easy food. They can breed very fast, so they must be domesticated in order to fulfill their hunger. And cattle were reared or domesticated just in order to get the supporting agricultural activities and milks. So whenever there will be agriculture and whenever there will be domestication of animals, then suppose there is a farmer who is producing some amount of grain or cereals which is more than the surplus, if he is using for his family or himself, then after the consumption throughout the year there is some amount which is left with him. So what he will do with this amount? He will try to exchange this amount of cereals with the for the sake of other objects, other materials, other things. That leads to the barter system, and then the trade and commerce starts. So trade and commerce was also flourishing in the area of Suleiman and Kirthar hills, and whenever there will be agriculture, domestication of animals, trade and commerce, then it is obvious that the villages will be developed in that area. Because whenever people will be indulged in the field of agriculture, then what they will do initially, they will convert the waste land into agricultural land or farm land, and it will take a lot of effort, toil and you can say the hard work. So whenever they will be able to convert it as agricultural land, it is quite obvious that they will feel some attachment to this land, and they will not try to move from those places to another places without any compulsion or necessity, because that land will start giving their cereals, they will start giving the food which will be very easy for their survival. So they will be attached to that place and they will not move from here and there. Then the villages will also be developed in those areas. So we can see that agriculture and crop growing was there in the Suleiman and Kirthar hills, but at the place Narmada it was not there. Then comes the Garo hills and Vindhyaj. Before knowing about the people who were living on the Garo hills and Vindhyaj, we should know something about these places. Garo hill is situated in the northwest, and Vindhyaj is situated in the middle of India. Garo hills are situated in Meghalaya and Vindhyaj are situated in 2-3 states like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, UP and Bihar. So before knowing about the people who are living in the Garo hills, we must be knowing something about Garo hills. I have collected some interesting points from other books which will be interesting for you also. So it is a part of a Garo Khasi range in Meghalaya, which is a state in India, and here in Garo people live, and it is the one of the wettest places in the world, because generally almost on the daily basis rain used to come in these places, so it becomes the wettest places in this world. And Garo Hill was a single district during the British India. When we were under the British people, Garo Hill was a single district, but nowadays it has 5 districts. And Tura is the largest town at the Tura peak, and it is generally often clouded with the and covered by cloud. At the demography here, if you will see the demography here, the type of people live here, the people who religion of the people, then we see that 76% of the people are here, 73% of the people are Christian, 13% are Hindu, 10% Islamic. As far as language is concerned, then 76% of the people who are living here speaks Garo language, and 12% of the people living here speaks Bengali, 1% of the people speaks Hindi, and 1% of the people speaks Assamese. Interesting thing is that males and females are both fond of wearing bangles and earrings. Nowadays we can see that in the cities and metropolitan cities, in even small cities also, even boys are wearing earrings with very keen desire. They are very happy and they feel very confident and they feel very smart while wearing the earrings nowadays, but earlier it was not so. It was the thing which was associated with female of the society only, and bangles are still not prevalent in the other part of the India, but in the Garo hills people used to wear bangles and earrings, both male and female both used to wear these things. It is an interesting thing about them. And one more interesting thing is that the society there is matrilineal. The baby belongs to the family of the mother throughout his life, even till his death. He belongs to the family of mother. Now we come to know about the people who used to live on the Indus, on the bank of the Indus River and its tributaries. Before knowing about the people who used to live here, we should know something about the Indus Valley. In the about Vindhyaj also I have collected some point. I think that important thing is left, that we could not cover about the facts about the people who used to live on the Garo and Vindhyaj hills. So Vindhyaj are the mountain ranges which are in the MP, Chhattisgarh, UP and Bihar. So we can see that they are not a single mountain, but they are spread to a large amount of area, and Vindhyaj are mentioned in the ancient text also. It was known as the boundary of south and north, and it is the southern boundary of the Aryavarta, who were the Indo-Aryan people living in the North India at those times. In ancient text it is mentioned. And one interesting story is also there in Ramayana, that the height and this mountain Vindhyas was growing very continuously, and it was obstructing the path of the sun. So it stopped growing anymore in obedience to Agastya's words. Agastya is a rishi, and when he saw that this mountain is rising very high and it is obstructing the path of the sun, then what he did, he ordered the mountain not to grow up anymore, and the mountain obeyed him, and this mountain is stopped till now. This is a story which is mentioned in Ramayana. What we can see through this, that this mountain is very much familiar with our religious text. It has some relevance in our mythology also. One important thing is also that the highest point of the Vindhyas is Sadbhavana Shikhar, goodwill peak. And in Mahabharata, the Vindhyas are mentioned at the eternal abode of Kali. And the most interesting thing which I found about this Vindhyas is that these only two mountains which are mentioned in our Jana Gana Mana, or you can say our national anthem, is Vindhyas and Himalayas. These two mountains are mentioned in our national anthem. So who wrote our national anthem? Our national anthem was written by Rabindranath Tagore, who was from the West Bengal, and originally he has composed a song named Bharato Bhagyo Vidhata, and it was in Bengali, and it was written on 11 December 1911. The first stanza of the song, Bharatiya Bhagya Vidhata, was adopted by the Constituent Assembly of India as the national anthem on 24 January 1950. And the formal recitation of this national anthem takes approximately 52 seconds, and it was first publicly sung on 27th December 1911. 27th December 1911 at the Calcutta, now Kolkata session of the Indian National Congress. Rabindranath Tagore is the author and composer of the national anthem of India, and he is the composer and you can say writer of the national anthem of not only India but of Bangladesh also. So these were the things which were interesting things about the Vindhyas also. So people, if you know about the people who were there in the living in the Garo and Vindhyas hill, so at that place agriculture was developed. The people who were living on the Garo hills and Vindhyas hills, they were knowing about the agriculture was developed, and when the agriculture was developed, then the trade and commerce was also developed, as I have told about the logical relationship between all these things. Then villages were also developed, and the most important and interesting thing is that the trace or evidence of the village rice growing is found from the place which was north of Vindhyas. The first of all, the evidence of rice growing is found from a place which was north of Narmada, north of Vindhyas. This is the important thing from this place. Now comes the Indus and territories. Before knowing about the people who were living on the Indus and its tributary region or basin, we should know something about the Indus River. Indus River is a transboundary river of Asia. A transboundary means it flows not only in a single country, it flows in more than one country. Its length is 3120 km. From where it starts and from where it ends, it rises in the mountain springs northeast of Mount Kailash in western Tibet. Lake Mansarovar means it starts from western Tibet, and the lake is Lake Mansarovar. It flows in China, India and Pakistan. Indus River flows in China, India and Pakistan. It empties into Arabian Sea. So it starts from the Tibet, western Tibet, and it ends in the Arabian Sea, and it flows into three countries, India, Pakistan and China. The river was known to the ancient Indians in Sanskrit as Sindhu and the Persians as Hindu, which was regarded by both of them as the border river. The five rivers which flow into the Indus are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Vyas and Satluj. Ring Veda describes several rivers, including one named Sindhu. The Ring Vedic Sindhu is thought to be the present-day Indus River. The important thing about the Indus River is that the word India is derived from the Indus River. So these are the interesting things about the Indus River, and now we come to know about the people who were living on the banks of the Indus River. We are very familiar with the word Indus Valley civilization. People who used to live in the areas of the Indus River, they settled a very great civilization, and that civilization is named as Indus Valley civilization. The cities of that civilization were very developed. They were very developed sociologically and technologically also. This civilization took place 4700 years ago, means 2700 BC. The name of this civilization was Indus Valley civilization. We will learn in detail about this civilization in the coming classes. Cities were flourished there and on the banks of the river, and their cities were also in a very developed and on modern lines. So we will know about this civilization in very detail in the coming chapters. Now comes the Gangas and its tributaries. Ganga is also very prominent, important and pious river in our country. So on the banks of this river also some civilizations flourished in our country in ancient times. Before knowing about those civilizations or those people who were living on the banks of the Ganga, we should know something about the Ganga. Ganga is also a transboundary river. Transboundary river means it does not flow only in one country, it flows in more than one country. The Ganga flows in India and in Bangladesh. Bangladesh was earlier in India, then it became the part of the Pakistan. Then in 1971 it got separated from Pakistan. Now it is an independent country. In India, Ganga is known as Ganga. When it enters into Bangladesh, then its name changes and it becomes Padma. The length of this Ganga is also very interesting number, 2525 km. From where it rises and from where to where it ends. It rises in the western Himalayas in the Indian state of Uttarakhand. Rishikesh or Haridwar is the special place in Uttarakhand, a specific place in the Uttarakhand. It empties into the Bay of Bengal. One important thing is that the Ganges delta is the world's largest delta, and Godavari river of Maharashtra is in western India. There is a state in western India named Maharashtra, and there is one river there. That river is Godavari river, and that Godavari river is known as the Ganges of the south, Ganga of south. There are some dolphins which are found in the Ganga, and these dolphins are freshwater dolphins in the world. There are only 5 true freshwater dolphins in the world. One is in China, another is in Pakistan, in South America and Brazil, and 5th one is in India, which is found in the Ganga river. So if you will know about the people who were living in the Ganges, on the banks of the Ganges and its tributaries, so we come to know that 2500 years ago, people used to live on the banks of the Ganges. And if you consider this time into BC, then it becomes 500 BC. So on the banks of the Ganges, cities developed, and most powerful and prominent city which developed on the banks of Ganga was Magadha. And there were 16 Mahajanpadas which were developed on the banks of the Ganges. And when there will be city, there is obviously there will be some trade and commerce, and urbanization also took place. And when all of these were there, then some migration of the people also took place. Now question comes, why people used to migrate from one place to another place? Why anybody tries to have a settled life? Nobody wants to move from one place to another place. But generally people move from one place to another place out of some compulsion or out of some desire or ambition. Generally the greatest motivations in this world are either fear or greed. we do anything either because of the fear or because of the greed. So they migrated from one place to another place because of some compulsions. That compulsions were out of the fear, and some of the people moved not because of the fear but because of their ambitions and desires. So we will know the reasons why they migrated from one place to another place. There was the reason of livelihood. If people in ancient times used to live at one place, when they exhausted all the food materials in that area, suppose the plants and trees, they have exhausted the products of those plants and trees, and if they have exhausted or the number of animals which they used to hunt were also reduced, then they have to move from that place to another place in order to search in the search of their food. So in order to livelihood, they moved from one place to another place. Then comes the natural disasters. Because of the natural disasters, they were compelled to move from one place to another place just to survive or just to save their life. If there will be some flood or drought, then what they will do? In order to survive, they have to leave that place and move to another place which must be safer in their view. Now comes the merchants. Merchants were the people who were in the search of profit. They used to buy some things, then they used to sell those things at the higher cost in order to get some profit. As Britishers were also merchants, when they came in India, they came as merchants. They tried to bring some objects from there and sell it here at the higher cost, or take some things from India and sell those things in Europe at the higher cost in order to get some profit. So they also came here in the search of profits. Likewise, merchants move from one place to another place in the search of profit. So in the ancient times also, merchants were also moving from one place to another place in the search of profit. When they moved from one place to another place, at that time technology was not that much advanced. They were not moving with the help of railway or airlines or ships. They were moving in the garbage, and they have developed some small type of boats or ships. Now the religious teachers. Religious teachers are the people who have acquired some spiritual knowledge or the religious knowledge about the life or about this world. They now have attained the enlightenment. They now have attained some knowledge that how to be happy, how to attain peace, how to live our life, how to help society, how to enjoy the life in this world. And now as they have attained this knowledge, this is the side effect of this type of knowledge, that if you have attained this type of knowledge, then the compulsion or the restlessness comes inside your brain, mind or soul, that now you want to spread it to all the world, everywhere in this world. You want to enlighten everybody in this world. You want to spread this knowledge, you want to impart this knowledge to almost everybody, because now you want to see everybody happy and peaceful. So they were also, although it was not compulsion, but they were compelled by their inner voice to move from one place to another place and impart their knowledge, like Buddha and Mahavira did when they got their enlightenment. So religious teachers were also moving from one place to another place. Now come the armies. Armies were also compelled to move from one place to another place as per the orders given by their kings. Kings were ambitious those times. Most of the kings were ambitious those times. Generally, they used to capture the new places or the new territories of the another kings. So in order to achieve that, they used to wage wars on their neighbors and other countries. So they used to order their armies, and whenever they have given some order, then armies were compelled to move from one place to another place. That is also considered as a migration. Then come the adventurers. There were people in this earth, in this world, who used to move from one place to another place just for the sake of the adventure. They want to see the new places, they want to know the new places, they want to experience the new places. They move in mountains, they move in forest, they move in seas. It is although not foundation or compulsion for them, it is just their area of interest. They enjoy it, they feel that they must experience everything on this earth. So in order to fulfill their adventurous desires, they move from one place to another place. So all these type of reason sums up the sufficient reasons which can make people move from one place to another place. Whenever the people move from one place to another place, they don't move alone. Whenever anybody moves from one place to another place, he takes away with him the beliefs, culture, traditions, way of living, style of living, even some part of his language also. He takes all these things along with him to a new place. And whenever they go to a new places, then they learn the custom and tradition of the people of the new places also. So what happens, the intermingling of the culture or the mixing of the culture takes place, and that makes the enrichment of the culture. Likewise, we can see that nowadays biryani is not a very famous food in North India. It is generally famous in the South India and especially in the area of Hyderabad. But now it has become very famous in the North India also. Almost every restaurant is you can serve you this biryani. So how it happened? Because people of North India was also going to the South India in the search of their career requirements, in the search of employment or study purpose. When they settled there, then they felt that this type of food is also very interesting and very tasty. So they started creating demand in their area also whenever they returned back after their requirement were fulfilled. And when they returned to their area, then the demand was also created. And some of the people also came in North India from the South India, and they also started searching for the food which was prevalent in those areas. So the demand was created. When the demand was created, then supply automatically came, and that's why now we have a very enriched culture. So two more interesting things are there in this book, which has covered that how the name of our country become India and Bharat. As far as the story behind the naming of our country as India is concerned, then we must understand that India is surrounded by sea from three sides and one by the mountain. So people were not able to move from one place, enter inside India from almost any side in ancient times. But whoever tried to enter, they entered it because they had the will, and we have heard that where there is a will, there is a way. They entered from the northwest, and the people who entered in India were Iranian and Greeks. They came in India 2500 years ago. And when they came to India, they were familiar with this river Indus earlier. They were familiar with this river Indus earlier, and they used to call it as Indos and Hindos, Indos or Hindos. So whenever they came to India, then the land which was east of this river Indus was called as India by Iranian and Greek people. So we can say that this name is given by the Iranian and Greek people in India. Now the word comes Bharat. Why the name of the Bharat is given as Bharat? The name is given as Bharat from our religious text. It means Vedic text. In our Vedic period, Rig Veda was written, and in the Rig Veda, the name of a king was mentioned, and the name of the king was Bharat, and he was a famous king. And on his name only, the name of our country became Bharat. Now we have two names for our country. It is written in our constitution also. Article 1 of our constitution tells India, that is Bharat, shall be union of states. So these two names are associated with our country. We have two names for our country. One is India and another is Bharat. Both of the names can be used interchangeably. Now the last question comes, how do you know our past? How do you know our past? Means sources of past. How do you know these things about our past? So for the answer of this question, there are three things which should be in our mind. One is manuscript, another is inscription, and last one is archaeology tools. So we will come to know them about them one by one. About manuscripts, it is a Latin word. Manu means hand. So it tells that manuscripts were the sources which were written by the hand. So the question comes, if it was written by the hand, then on which things it was written? At that time paper was not discovered. So it was written on the palm leaves, leaves of the palm tree, and on the bark of the trees, which was known as birch, and these trees are generally found in Himalayas. Although they were written on the leaves or the bark of the trees, it is quite obvious that they will not be surviving for a longer span of time. Environment will start degrading them, insects will start eating them. So it is quite obvious that all of the manuscripts are not survived till death, but some of them are survived, and whichever are survived, they are stored and preserved in our temples and monasteries. Now the question comes, in which language it was written? Although the inception of language has already taken place at that time, so they were written in the language of either Tamil, Sanskrit or Prakrit. Prakrit was the language of the common people of that time, Sanskrit was the language of the elite people at that time. So three languages were used to write the manuscripts those times. Now question comes, if it was written by hand, it was written on the leaves, and it was written in Sanskrit, Pali or Tamil, then now question comes, why after all they were written? What was the need to write? What were the things which were there in the mind of the people which they tried to convey on the leaves? What were the subjects of writing? You can say the subjects of writing were the religious beliefs, because at that time religion was only supreme. So religious beliefs were written. About kings, something was written. Medicines, science and epics, plays and poems were written on these manuscripts. Now when the people realized, now we will come to know about inscriptions. When the people realized that manuscripts are not going to survive for a longer span of time, because we are writing them on leaves, plants, so what they thought, that we should write it on harder surfaces so that it can survive for a longer span of time. They will not be degraded by our environment or insects. So they started writing on metals or stones. Whenever the things were written on metals or stones, then they are called as inscription. Another name for inscription is epigraph also. So they were written on the hard surfaces, and hard surfaces were stone or metals. Now question comes, what were the subjects which were written on in the inscriptions? So generally they were the messages of the kings. Nowadays if an officer or if any authority wants to convey his message or order to the common people, generally they try to publish in newspapers, or generally they try to circulate the departmental letters. But earlier it was not so. So they used to write the messages of the king on the stones or metals, and some recordings of kings and queens' life was also there. Their achievements, the interesting things about them were also recorded by the people who were the part of the court, who wanted to, you can say, the glorify the life of their kings or queens in order to please them, so they can have some benefit. Also there must be some different reasons, but it is fact that about the lives of kings and queens there are some inscription which tells about the lives of the kings and queens. Now the most important thing is that most of the inscriptions are telling something about their victories of the kings. If anybody wins or anybody get the victory, then he or she tries to convey this victory to the whole world, because whenever you are happy, whenever you have achieved something, you want to spread yourself to the whole world. But if you are defeated, if you are depressed, if you are sad, then you want to be contracted. You don't want to spread yourself, you don't want to be socializing more, you don't want to let the knowledge about yourself spread to the society that you are defeated or you are a loser. That is a common psychology. So whenever they were they won in any war, then their victories were written on a very large scale in the inscriptions. Here in our NCERT book, chapter 1, there is one inscription which is mentioned. That inscription is of the King Ashoka, and in that inscription, which is inscription of Kandahar, the order of the Ashoka is written, and it is written in two scripts. The top half of this inscription is written in Greek script, and the bottom half of this script is written in the Aramaic script. Now comes the third source, and third source is the archaeological tools. Archaeological tools means archaeological objects, means these are the objects or tools which are used by the archaeologists or the historians, which they have found by the excavation of the land. Whenever they find that some remains of ancient times are found at any place, then they seize that area. People are not around to allowed to enter that area, and then start digging that place, and from the beneath of the earth they find some objects, which objects can tell or give some information about the people of those times, and those informations and knowledges are added bit by bit in order to construct a story, which a story is known as a history to a common man. So scientists, or I say the historians, generally act like a detective. They collect all the evidences and they try to connect these dots, and then they form a story, which is then they present it as a history to us. Now the objects which were found from the archaeological tools are buildings. Buildings means remains of buildings. If some buildings are found, then we can know about the type of buildings people used to make at those times, the level of science and technology which was developed or not, the type of bricks which were used at those times, if those bricks were whether those bricks were kacha or pakka. If those bricks were pakka, then their science and technology must have evolved more or progressed more. So these are the small things which can tell a lot about the life and the society of those times. Now comes the paintings. If some painting is found as a remains from any place, then historians must consider, or generally they consider, that whether those paintings are made from artificial paint or natural paint. Even if they are knowing the painting, in order to paint something, it also requires a lot of intellectual development, and if they are using artificial paint, it means their science and technology to manufacture the paint was also developed. Now comes the sculpture. Sculpture tells about the religious beliefs. If they have found some statues which were used in their religion, then it can tell something more about their religious beliefs and practices. Now tools. If the tools and weapons are found, then they can also tell about the level of their development. If tools are very sophisticated, then it tells about their development of science and technology. And if more of weapons are found, then we can conclude that people of those times, or from those areas, were more involved in wars and battles. They were constantly fighting. That's why the requirements of weapons was more than the tools. And if number of tools are found more, then also we can conclude that people who were living in those areas at those times were more interested in factories or in manufacturing of the goods in order to make their life more comfortable and facilitate the common way of living. But these things are the conclusions which are drawn by the historians on the availability of the tools or weapons. So they have also great significance in the as a source of history. Then the pots. If their pots are having good pots, their pans, their ornaments, coins, these all things also tells about the way of living and level of their development. Stones. If stones are found like clays and metals, they all tell about their scientific development and level of the growth of the civilization. The last but not the least and the most important of all the archaeological objects, as I find, is the bones. If the bones of animals, fish and birds are found from any place, then they tell about their eating habits. If the animals, fish and birds are found, then we can understand whether they were used as a support for their life, like cattle which are used in agriculture, or whether they were used as a food in their life. And if some bones of these cattle or fish are found from their gravewards, graveyards, then we can consider that the people were believing the life after death. That's why if someone is dead, with cremation they used to put these animals also, that if that person or his relative will go in the other world, then he will not be hungry, he will enjoy the eating of these foods. So these can tell something about their social culture also. So now we can conclude this chapter. We have understood that the chapter is what, where, how and when. What means what we want to know about our past. Where means where our people in the past used to live. How means how they used to manufacture their goods, how they used to prepare their food, how they used to manage their food, how they used to face the challenges of survival. And when means it was about the specification and of the time which I have already told about, BC and AD. Now there are 4-5 places where people used to live, and the 4-5 places I have covered in great detail. Those places are Narmada. Important thing is that in the places Narmada, people who are not knowing about agriculture. Then Suleiman and Kirthar hills, then Garo hills, Vindhyas, Indus Valley civilization is most important civilization of those times. Now the Gangas and its tributaries. Now every civilization, if the civilizations were developed, then what was seen, that people used to migrate from one place to another place out of some compulsion or out of some desire or ambition. When they moved, then what they did, they enriched our culture. Then why the name of our country became India? It was the contribution of the Iranian and Greek people, which we are knowing about Indus. They used to call it Indus and Hindus. So the places or areas east of this river was known as India. So this name was given by these people. Bharat, the name is mentioned in Rig Veda. It is the name of a king, and on his name, the name of our country became Bharat also. Our constitution article 1 says that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Then the sources of history I have covered right now, that there are 3 sources: manuscripts, inscription and archaeology tools. Manuscripts were written on leaves. Inscriptions were written on hard surfaces like stone ornamentals, and archaeological tools I have covered in great detail. So with this I am going to end this chapter first, and we will be meeting soon in our chapter 2. That chapter 2 will be more interesting than this chapter. Thanks for watching.